This is Business Talk, and I'm Norman Liss. We devote our program to helping people do business better. And one of the ways to do business better is to find out what the media think about us and perhaps some concepts. And my guest today is Greg David, who is the editor of Crain's New York Business and also the editor of a new publication called Crain's Small Business, which will not only cover Westchester, but will also cover Manhattan. And Greg, I'm delighted you can come here today. And really, the question is, how come? How come Crain's has decided to start this publication, Crain Small Business, that will be covering Westchester as well as New York City?
Well, thank you for having me. Our reason for starting Crain Small Business is that interest in small businesses and what they're doing and what they can do has been at an all-time high.
Why?
Interest. Why? Well, there are more of them. Also, it's generally believed, of course, that small businesses are the growth engine of the economy. A supposition I'm not sure I agree with, but it's generally believed that.
I don't understand that term, the growth engine of the economy.
That new jobs in the economy are going to be created by small businesses, not large businesses. It's mostly true. It's just not as true as I think people say it is.
Why do you come to that conclusion that it's not true?
Well, that comes from the attitude you pick up that big companies are just laying off because people like myself in the media just cover layoffs at 9X or other big companies in the area, especially here in Westchester. The answer is that it's easy for the media to cover layoffs. It's hard for the media to cover job creation, so you don't hear about job creation at good-sized companies. Nevertheless, small businesses do play a crucial role in the economies of New York City, of Westchester, and of the whole country.
But as the larger companies shrink, and of course Westchester has been corporate headquarters for so many companies, and as companies leave the area, not only does it take the people who formerly worked for them to seek other means of livelihood, but also many of the small businesses which depended upon them for work don't have these clients anymore. Certainly are not getting the volume. So it creates quite a big problem here.
Well, it is a big problem. It's a particularly big problem in Westchester because of the nature of the Westchester economy. There are two economies in Westchester. Mm-hmm. There's the commuting economy, and there's the economy that is dependent on business activity within the county. During the recession, which thank God is over, but it was awfully long and hard, Westchester lost 10%, just under 10% of all the jobs in the economy. What's important about that number is it's the same number as the New York City lost. New York City also lost 10% of its jobs. So the recession was just as bad in Westchester as it was in the city.
No question.
But the commuting economy didn't suffer at all. If you look at Metro-North ridership numbers, and let's presume that those are a proxy for the people who take the train into New York City, Metro-North ridership did not fall at all during the recession and is beginning to inch up again.
Why?
Why? Because the people in Westchester who have jobs in the city didn't lose them. So the commuting economy in Westchester stayed robust, and the Westchester economy suffered badly during the recession.
The title of the new publication is Crain's Small Business, and it's not the first Crain Small Business. So obviously Crain, which publishes Advertising Age and Crain's New York Business and other publications, felt that there was a need to do that. But did not come to New York first because you have a Crain Small Business in Chicago and you have another one in Detroit.
Right.
And why not New York earlier, and why New York now?
Well, we're not that far behind the other cities. We're only about 9 months behind their starting points. And those publications are older and somewhat more established than we are, even though we're a decade old and got into this earlier. The actual reason for that is that Crain's New York business, probably more than the publications in Chicago and Detroit, has always given great voice to small business concerns. We've covered small business in New York in a very aggressive way, and it took us a while to figure out how this new product would fit into what we already do at Crain's New York business. The answer to that is the new publication, Crain's New York business has 70,000 readers. Crain's small business will have 35,000 different readers.
So your first issue is out now.
It's out now.
And your second issue is going to be?
It'll be in the mail in the first week of September, late August. It'll be dated September. That's when we go monthly.
Okay, so you start going monthly in September, and you'll be how many issues a year?
10 issues a year. Monthly is, in this case, is going to be 10 issues from now.
And what's the focus now? You are doing a lot more Westchester in small business than you are doing in New York business. So what's the focus? What sort of articles are in the works? What's in the first issue?
Well, the basic design of Crain's small business is to be targeted to small businesses, and we expect 90% of the businesses that read Crain's small business to have under $5 million in sales. So that's the marketplace that we're targeting. We also are targeting people who have home offices with special material for them. Crain Small Business will provide trend coverage of issues that are important to small businesses. We'll do profiles of small businesses. We'll talk about the things that affect small business, government regulation, taxes, management issues. Unlike Crain's New York business, Crain's Small Business will have a much more how-to focus to it. And there will be a section on Westchester in every issue of Crain's Small Business.
So when you say a section, so it's definitely not just intermingled, but it will be a definite Westchester section.
Well, new publications grow and mature and change. The issue people could be seeing these days has a section. We might decide to do that differently in September. That's one of those decisions which will certainly be reviewed after we hear from our readers.
It's an interesting point. I interviewed the editor of another publication not too long ago, and she told me that the small section became the publication, and the main section just disappeared, and the small section became the whole publication. So it's very true. I guess it's not an experience that's unique with your publication.
No, all publications change. All publications change at different paces, but any new publication winds up changing a fair amount.
Yes.
We've made our best guesses of what's helpful to our readers. We're actually going to put a little fax poll in the first issue and ask people to send them back and tell us what they think.
You talk about how-to, and the focus of this program as it continues will be on how-to, how people in small businesses can do business better. What has your research shown? What are people interested in knowing about as far as the how-to aspect?
I think small business people are interested in knowing anything that will help them. What are the biggest concerns of small business? Well, the biggest concern of any small business is usually money. Getting money, getting capital is like the overwhelming concern of most small businesses. And the first issue, by the way, has a special section on financing, on ways to get it. Management issues are always important to small businesses. I think political issues are very important to small businesses these days.
What do you mean by that?
Nowhere is government more intrusive on the life of business than in New York State, especially in New York City, but also elsewhere. It's a very intrusive...
You say that in a negative way, don't you?
I do mean that in a negative way. It's intrusive because it makes life difficult, because it's anti-competitive. I think it's one of the... If you count taxes in that issue, it is the most important issue for how the New York economy is going to grow and change. But you can also divide them into two parts, the tax issue and the regulation issue.
And why is that? Is it New York style? What's the reason for that?
Yes, it's New York style. It's a legacy of the kind of politics that has triumphed in New York. New York is one of the most liberal states in the nation. And it's a legacy of how good the economy has been here for a long time, and therefore it wasn't very important. If I can use a city analogy here, David Dinkins lost in large measure, I believe, because of a tremendous revolt against his leadership by small businesses in the city of New York, at a time when the recession made doing business in New York City so difficult and so dangerous. He imposed $2 billion in new taxes, and he was never forgiven about it. There is growing anger throughout New York, I think, on the part of business people towards Mario Cuomo, despite the new rhetoric we're getting out of Albany. Whether that'll make a difference in the gubernatorial race, however, is, I guess, another story.
I heard someone comment that when a situation develops, Mario Cuomo just keeps talking until people give in.
Well, you've got to give him some credit. We're going to get, when this program's out, we'll know exactly how much, but there are going to be tax cuts in the budget that Albany approves. The interesting part is I think almost none of them help small business.
None of them help small business.
No, as all the small business people watching this program know, virtually all small businesses are incorporated as what's known as Subchapter S corporations. Essentially, although there are some nuances here, Subchapter S corporations pay income taxes on their personal income tax. Well, we're not cutting the very high personal income tax rate in New York. It's 7.875%, and it kicks in at income of $26,000. So it's a very high tax rate for, let's say, a modestly successful small business.
There are so many people. You mentioned home offices. There are so many people. You talk about up to $5 million being categorized by you as a small business, but
we think small businesses are larger. This publication, the vast majority of readers will have less than $5 million in sales.
But there are so many businesses that are concerned, you mentioned home offices, that are concerned with when the phone rings, I hope the baby isn't crying or the vacuum cleaner isn't running, because they are working from home.
Right.
And it's a question of staying alive in many cases, and if you lose one major account, you're out of business. That's the heart of the small business companies, I think, that have broken off from other companies, moved up from New York City, started a family and working from home.
Actually, we have a story about child care and home businesses in the first issue. We are going to attack that issue. Small businesses, we know the failure rates are very high in small businesses. They are very chancy things. And I think one of the things that people who pursue policies that don't help small businesses don't understand is the risks small business people take. Most small businesses are started, especially these days, by risking everything you have. The first thing a small business person does is they go out and get as many credit cards as possible. And the first source of financing for a small business is to run up the credit card debt. Hitting up the relatives, I guess, is a close second, but that's what you do. When you need somewhat more substantial financing, the banks require that you put your home on the line. So you're either going to lose your home or lose all your equity in the home whenever you want to sell it if your business doesn't succeed. So small business people take tremendous risks when they go out and form a business. And I'm not sure that sense of risk is well appreciated.
Well,
not by the small business people themselves, but by the people who pass tax laws or health insurance laws or all the rest of it.
One of the things that small business people talk to me about is how do you get new business? And there are various ways, satisfied customers, recommendations from other people, cold solicitation. It's tough to get business, isn't it?
Oh, I think marketing is the worst. That's why I could never be a small business person. Good small business people are selling all the time. Everybody's a prospect.
And staying alive, and I know a lot of people don't take into consideration one very important factor, and that's the float. You bill out the money, but it may be 30, 60, 90, or never that you get your money in many cases, especially since you're taking all kinds of business to stay alive.
The challenges, I think, of small businesses are endless. We're also going to have a story in the first issue about how to deal with your debts when they're out of control. And there's an interesting concept in this issue about arbitrating the debts, calling in an arbitrator to work out a settlement between you and your creditors and the way things that can happen. It also has advice on what to do and what not to do.
So you're saying that the prime consideration seems to be financial.
I think finances overhang small businesses all the time. Just to the extent you have a payroll, making it. To the extent you're paying rent, making that rent payment. The banks don't let you. It's not like you have this line of credit on the bank and you just run it into the red till the bank finally wakes up and decides you're in trouble, the way that happens with a big company.
Another problem that I've heard is once you get the business, you get the order, whatever it may be. How do you serve it? If you're understaffed, do you use outside sources? Do you start to build up overhead in personnel, hoping that the business will continue? And I think that's a problem that faces a lot of companies today. They don't know where to go once things start to get good.
You know where the real connection point there is the people who start businesses from their home, who have this initial flurry of success. The big leap for those companies is leaving the home, having an office, and hiring someone. And that winds up being particularly a key issue for women-owned businesses. There are thousands and thousands of women-owned businesses. If I can get the number right, there's something like 30,000 women-owned businesses in New York City. But 98% of them have no employees.
Mm-hmm.
And making that leap to adding staff is a crucial thing. One of the things we do in Crain's New York business, and we're also going to do in Crain's small business, is that we have something called the advisor, where we take one company's story and tell it and bring experts in to talk about how they can do it better. And that's a feature that will appear in many of the issues of Crain's small business and Crain's New York business.
One of the things that I heard people doing successfully is actually shrinking a small business. Instead of having a staff of 4 or 5 people, using outside resources. The term today is outsourcing, but this goes back long before that term was popular, in which you used entrepreneurs, other small businesses who want your business, who may charge you a little more, but you pay for real live time and not for the valleys that come in along there.
That's a good strategy, but quality control and the ability to meet your obligations are always difficult in those circumstances.
Downside.
Yes.
On the other hand, it eliminates the overhead, and therefore you're not feeding a lot of other mouths when business may drop off a little bit.
They're very tough issues that's clearly a tough issue that people have to face.
So the whole Crain small business approach is really heavily on the how to do, as you see.
There'll be a lot of how to, but there'll also be a lot of trend stories. A good business publication, which is what I think, of course, that I'm doing, provides useful information without just writing how-to stuff. Crain's New York business is in the marketplace of spotlighting up-and-coming companies. Many people use Crain's New York business as a leads publication to know who's doing well and who's not doing well, and to spotlight interesting things. So we're going to write about trends. We're going to write about all kinds of different things. But where there's a distinction between the two publications, there's much more how-to in Crain's small business. I do want to say that actually some of the material is going to be shared. There's what we call the best of the small business coverage in Crain's New York business is going to appear in Crain's small business.
You've been at Crain's New York business for 9 years, almost since the beginning. You've seen a lot of changes take place. The publication itself has become not only successful, but has also become a very important factor. You lead on the news, and so you find stories. You're quoted extensively.
I appreciate all that. I also think it's true.
It's obvious to anybody who sees it, and the way you do that is not just covering the news, but doing a lot of what's called enterprise reporting, and finding the story and getting behind it when nobody else has done that. Is that hard?
Sure. It's what they pay me for, and not enough.
How do you do it?
Well, at Crain's New York business, and to a large extent the way we'll do it at Crain's small business, is it means that we have to pay attention and be out talking to the people who are our readers, and who know about what our readers are doing.
How does a publication talk to people? That's a term that's not quite clear to me, and maybe not clear to others.
Well, I've got 11 reporters and 4 senior editors, and we're out talking to people. The reporters spend what do reporters do? They spend a whole day on the phone talking to people, and then they spend about 3/4 of their time on the phone talking to people, and 1/4 of their time writing up what they hear. One of my reporters told me this great story. Her mother-in-law, who I don't think she likes anyway, but her mother-in-law said to her one day, well, what happens to these stories? Does your boss just sort of like hand you a package of stuff and say, write it up? Well, that's not what happens. Reporters have to find their own stories. They have to come up with good ideas. They come up with good ideas because they're out there talking to our readers and to business people in general. That's sort of the same group about what's going on and what's important. And they take that to decide what good stories are. Also, I would like to think that we're accessible, and people who have good ideas for us just have to do one thing. They have to take enough time to write a one-page letter to me, and the fax number is 212-210-0799, and send it to me. And in that one-page letter, you tell me why I should write about your business and not all the other ones like you.
That's an important piece of information.
And
why don't you repeat that fax number?
Let me do the second part. And why I should write about this story now. Mm-hmm. Not a year ago or a year from now, but why it's important now. So the fax number is 212-210-0799, one page, why I should write about you and not everyone else like you, and why I should write about you now. Or if it's not a pitch because you're involved in the story, then you can just send it to me and tell me what the story is. The word I never want to see in a story pitch is unique. It isn't true, and I never believe it. Don't call me up and say my idea is unique. The other thing you never do is call up and say you're advertising. At least in our publication, it doesn't matter, and if you say it too insistently, either I or the other editor or reporter who's talking to you on the phone is going to get mad about it and just cut you off because of that. So don't tell us whether you're an advertiser or not. It doesn't matter. Don't tell us you're unique. Just tell us why the story is important.
Now, you, by saying that here, and I'm sure saying that to people generally, are inviting a lot of things to come in. It must have a tremendous amount of volume that comes in the mail and by fax, and I suppose by telephone calls with people doing the same thing. Doesn't that cut down tremendously on the time that you have to do your job?
We have to invest that time. I'm not telling you that we're going to do your story idea. I'm promising you I'll read your letter. It doesn't take me long to read a one-page letter. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you say in the letter that you'll call me in a few days, and you do, I put the letters aside, and I have it right there. And when you call me, I'll tell you really what I think. Now, by the way, you've got to be prepared for me to tell you, no, it's not a story. Because I'll do that. You know, I'm just sort of a straightforward person. I just do that. It doesn't come with much gloss. But it's my job to do that, because I'm not looking for 50% of those letters to give me stories. I'll be happy if 5% of those letters give me good stories. Or actually, what I get a lot of time is I get ideas that are different than the ones you sent me, but are prompted by your letter in a way that your letter tells me something that is important for me to know, even though you didn't realize you were telling me that. Look, that's my job. That's what they pay me to do, is find good stories, and I have to be willing to do those things.
You're saying that a very small percentage of those turn into stories that you pursue. Is that because the quality is so bad, or is that because you have so many good stories that you can choose good, better, best?
Well, we can choose good, better, best. A lot of people can't see beyond their own little business. I can't write about your business because you think it's important. I have to write about your business because I think everyone else will think there's something important to say about it. People aren't very good at making that distinction. And we have limited space and limited time, so we have to choose what we think will be the most important and interesting stories for the broad readership.
What's the formula? What makes a good story?
Well, if it interests me, because I'm sort of the proxy for the readers, and that means if it interests me because I stand in and say, will this interest my readers? If it says something about something that's important in the news, if the hot topic in the news is healthcare, and this is somehow related to healthcare, that helps the story a lot too. We call that in the business a peg.
Do you are you anxious or interested in having resources? Let's say you're doing a story on a particular subject and you want someone to quote to give a perspective. it may not be a person about whom the story is, but if you're writing on a particular phase of the Westchester economy, someone who is particularly adept at that, either from a university or somewhere else? Are you interested in that type of source?
We're always interested in experts. Matching up the reporter who's working on the story and the experts is a little hard as far as the logistics of it. But if people send me lists of good sources in Westchester, we'll try to get them to the right person.
As you know, this program is produced in cooperation with the association group, which are 9 associations. Would it be valuable to you if the associations asked their members to compile lists and to send those lists to you of resources?
We'll take it. We take anything.
But you seem to be opening yourself up to a large volume of mail and faxes, and you say it's your job. Doesn't it become overwhelming? I've been in some newspaper offices, and I've seen the in-baskets, which are loaded with material that they can't even get to.
Many newspapers discourage it. We try to manage it. I'd like to think that's what makes us different. We're not perfect. That's why don't call me on the phone and try and pitch me a story idea on the phone. I don't have an office. I'm just sitting in the newsroom. And when you call me, you don't know if I'm in the middle of editing a story and picked up the phone, or if some reporter's standing at the other side of my desk screaming at me about what I'm doing to their story. So it works best if you send me a letter, but I'll read the letter. We need an inexhaustible supply of good story ideas. We're in the market for them. We'll manage the workload.
Do you feel that there is a strong Westchester market? There are publications here that are covering business. The daily newspapers, the Gannett newspapers cover business every day.
Sort of.
Uh-huh. And do you still feel that there's a market here?
Well, we've read the competition, and we think there's a market here, yes. Mm-hmm. We think that there are important business connections between Westchester and the city that we can capitalize on. We also think that many of the issues that exist in Westchester are common to businesses in the city and have to do with the fact that both localities are located in New York State. And we think we have a particular expertise and insight on the topics of small business and the economy that we can bring to bear.
Well, I have to bring to bear the fact that we've run out of time, and I thank you very much for coming here and enlightening us about Crain's small business and what the future is going to be. My guest today has been Greg David, who is the editor of Crain's New York Business and the new Crain Small Business. The name of this program is Business Talk. I'm Norman Liss, and I invite you to watch this program every other week as we find ways to tell you how to do business better. Until next time at this time, good luck.